Hi, this will be the reading for the sign of Capricorn for the month of June 2023. The deck that I'm using is a Rider-Waite deck by Pamela Coleman-Smith and Arthur Waite. And yes, I use reverse cards, and if any cards jump out, I use one or all. So the overall energy for the month of June talks about financial issues taking place, security issues. You're waiting on some type of money that perhaps you're expecting a check, and that money is going to help you accomplish or achieve what it is that you're vying to accomplish in the month of June. Perhaps you're wanting to get involved in a new program of study and you're waiting for the finances to be able to pay for that course. Or perhaps you're waiting on the paperwork in order for you to be able to get involved in a new program of study, or perhaps a new job. Maybe you're waiting on a criminal check or a reference check. But it all circles around your security, and it circles around being able to achieve things financially in your life. So there is a big onus on money in the month of June 2023. It also talks about you wanting to explore the world and looking for more opportunities. And perhaps this is where you're running into problems. Perhaps you don't have the finances in order to be able to do this. Maybe you're wanting to travel. Maybe you're wanting to go on vacation and you don't have the money at this point in time in order to do that. Now, it does talk about having to pay attention to your body in the month of June 2023 and focusing on your diet and your health. Now, perhaps you're eating a diet that's high in sugar, so perhaps you're having to look at the fact that maybe you're pre-diabetic, and now would be the time to focus on it before it actually comes to fruition. So it does talk about you having to deal with obstacles, perhaps towards educational goals. And that delay in paperwork is going to create a few obstacles for you in that venue, whether it be in education or whether it be in a job. Maybe you're waiting on work references, or maybe you're waiting on I think they're called criminal checks. And maybe you're waiting on that type of paperwork in order to move forward in a new endeavor in your life. So that's taking place for the whole month of June 2023. Now, as we move into the first couple of days of that first week of June, okay, it's talking about a paternal figure in your life. It's someone who possibly, now it could be a paternal figure, it could be a grandfather, it could be an uncle, it could be a brother, it could be a mentor, it could be a boss. It's someone who has that position of responsibility or authority, but they don't have or haven't cultivated that emotional strength that they need, or personal commitment to a goal or to other people in their lives. Now, this is someone who is coming into your life and they're trying to improve their relationship with you. Could, as I said, it could be a father, it could be a brother, it could be an uncle, but it's someone who perhaps was not very emotionally available to their children or to you. Perhaps you're their child. Now, it's also someone who is quite busy in their own life, and so they didn't take the time away from their own interests to focus on you, and now they're wanting to kind of like extend that olive branch to form a connection with you, or a closer relationship with you. It does say that it's possibly an authority figure in your life, a father figure, someone who is very emotionally distant or uninvolved in your life, someone who was absent. So perhaps this is someone that you haven't seen for a long time and you lost that connection with them, and so they're wanting to form a more solid relationship with you. Now, it does talk about you having to grieve the loss of this relationship or this sense of togetherness with this person. And maybe you are showing it in a semblance of emotional neediness in your relationships. Perhaps the relationship that you didn't have, or that was shaky or was distant, with a paternal figure in your life or an authority figure in your life. So now you're extending that into your own relationships, possibly into your partnerships. And you're feeling that emotional neediness where you're always looking for reassurance. Or perhaps you're having this inability to show affection to someone in your life. And that all stems from a relationship that possibly you had with a paternal figure in your life or an authority figure in your life. So now we're moving into the middle 2 days of that first week, where the focus is on an authority figure in your life, perhaps from the past, who wants to reconnect with you. And in the middle couple of days of that first week, it talks about you're going to get an affirmation of any question that you have. Now, it looks like the question might be revolving around a relationship that you have with a paternal figure in your life or an authority figure in your life. So If you're asking, does this person want to reconnect with me? The answer is yes. If you're asking, is should I extend that olive branch? Should I accept that olive branch? The answer is yes. Why not? And it talks about being positive. It talks about charm and energy and radiance and seeing a way forward, a way to form a connection with this other person. Now, this is a very powerful card that you have that is coming up in the middle 2 days of that first week, and it talks about money, and it talks about success in a job, in a relationship. It talks about receiving public recognition and accolades. It also talks about children's issues, possibly pregnancy, childbirth, protection, parenting, openness, a gift, a favor that's coming from someone in your life that is possibly a parental figure. It does talk about you displaying a high level of energy, feeling a sense of luck or a sense of growth in a relationship with a person in your life, and you're feeling that freedom to express yourself in whichever way you see fit. So you're feeling exuberant about a new change in a relationship in your life, possibly with a paternal figure. And that's not a bad thing, especially since there was a disconnect in that relationship. And in that first week, it's almost like you're reforming that bond on a more solid basis. So we're looking at the very last couple of days of that first week, and it's talking about you having to decide between two choices, 2 invitations, 2 projects, 2 colleges, 2 jobs, 2 places of residence, 2 ways of living. Now, there is a desire in your life to go with what is more familiar. Perhaps going to school is you're having to kind of like juggle school and work, or school and family. Perhaps you're getting involved in 2 jobs. Maybe you're taking on part-time work in order to achieve financial success or security in your life. But it does talk about having to divide your time between possibly 2 families. So there's almost like a sharing of relationships. So possibly this is a family who is dispersed. Perhaps this is a family where maybe it was a family that has been separated by time or space or emotions. And so there is a reconnect there, and you're having to make a decision. Is this something that you're willing to do? Maybe someone is offering you the chance to come and stay with them, an extended visit with someone. And you're kind of thinking, I'm not really sure if I want to do this. I'm not really sure if I want to do this. I think that I want to do this slower. I want to perhaps get involved in this relationship, but slower. I don't want to be pushed into it. I don't want to feel like I'm pressured into doing it. Now, it does talk about having to divide your time and your energy between 2 families, 2 friends, 2 parental figures, 2 jobs, 2 relationships, 2. It also talks about you having to modify your plans in order to do with a partner, or perhaps even a spouse, or perhaps your work. But it does say that you're having to focus on the fact that everyone is an individual in their own right, and not only part of a partnership. Okay, so you're having to focus on being an individual, but also part of a union. It talks about prosperity and power, so don't misuse it. Don't abuse it. Treat everyone equally. Talks about having to compromise and having to have a semblance of cooperation in your day-to-day life. It does talk about seeking help from influential people if you can't come up with a decision. You're torn between 2 decisions in your life and you can't really decide. And so you're turning to people in your life that you trust or you value their opinion. You are trying to get feedback on your ideas. It also talks about good job contacts, exciting job opportunities, rewarding interactions with other people. So that first week is kind of talking about, like extending that olive branch, but not really sure if you're ready and willing to extend it all the way. Okay, so it's kind of like you're making a decision. Do you stay or do you go? Do you get involved in this relationship? Are you willing to get involved in this relationship? Are you willing to put in the commitment, the effort, and the time? in that first week. So let's move into the second week. And in that second week, I'm a little concerned because in that second week, the first 2 days, it's talking about addictions. Now, addictions can be anything. They can be gambling. They can be spending too much money. They could be sexual addictions. They could be drug or alcohol. It could be food addictions. Bad relationships can be addiction. So there is a wide gamut of things that you might be dealing with in that second week. But it's basically not talking about yourself. It's talking about someone else's addictions. And it's creating a sense of discontent or fear or anxiety in you. And you're feeling resentment. You're feeling resentment toward this person. Perhaps you're going through a period of almost like an unresolved personality conflict with this individual. Or perhaps this individual has got an unresolved personality conflict. So be cautious. Be cautious with people whose intentions are not clear, or possibly someone who is dealing with addictions, okay? Now, it does talk about things are going to start going. Things are going to start moving forward, but they're on shaky ground because of this person's influence on the circumstances. So be very, very aware of that. And don't blindly trust people who are kind of maybe trying to snow you over. Okay, be very aware of that. Middle 2 days of that second week, it talks about you being strongly attracted to mysticism. I mean, you're listening to a YouTube channel that is focused on tarot card readings, okay, and psychic predictions. So possibly it's true. So if you're attracted to mysticism, perhaps you're listening to videos that are kind of forewarning you of things that may happen in the future, and so you're taking these to heart. Now, it does talk about you having unrealistic expectations about love. There's someone in your life who doesn't believe in the mysticism or doesn't believe in your spiritual beliefs. Now, it could be a partnership in your life where possibly you're having problems. You're having problems in a partnership because of the difference in opinion. Someone's not agreeing with what you believe. And they're pressuring you to kind of like leave your beliefs by the wayside and to develop and envelop their belief systems totally. It's like someone wants to kind of pressure you into think the way that they think, okay? And they're basically trying to force your hand on that. Now, it does talk about problems in a partnership, in love, or possibly at work, but it talks about one partner spending a lot more time with their friends. They're spending a lot more time with their friends, and they're not spending that quality time with you. Now, this might be from that first week where it was talking about a paternal figure in your life or a parental figure in your life that was wanting to form a more solid connection with you. And now in that second week, they're kind of pulling away and they're wanting to spend more time with their friends. So you're seeing where this is headed, right? Now, it does talk about overindulgence, and there is an addiction here. So it could be overindulgence in drugs and alcohol or something else, okay? And it's going to create problems, either physically or psychologically. And I can see that happening. Now, it does talk about you needing more training or more opportunities in your life, okay? It does talk about you looking for patterns and the hidden meanings in things that are taking place or the relationships that you have in your life. You're liking the psychology of things. You want to know why people do what they do and believe what they believe. Now, there is going to be problems because you're doing something that you disagree with. You vehemently disagree with this, but you're being pressured into doing it. Now, and it does talk about addictions. So this worries me, Capricorn. This worries me. Are you being pressured to do something that ethically or morally is wrong for you? Now, it's also talking about the fact that just because you care about somebody, let's say someone in your life has a problem with an addiction of sorts, okay? And just because you care about this person doesn't mean that you have to be their battering ram or that you have to put up with any type of verbal abuse, emotional abuse, or psychological abuse. Do not deal with it. Do not put up with it. And if you need to, call someone to get you out of there if you need help. So we're in the last 2 days of that second week. Damn it. Too much of a good thing. Overindulgence, selfishness, lack of appreciation, having to be creative to set the right energies in motion. So there's a person in your life, perhaps even yourself, who's more content with more of an introverted lifestyle. And that person possibly is being pressured to get involved in something they don't want to get involved in. So I'm seeing where this is headed in that second week. You're going to have to be very vigilant about self-protection. Protecting yourself from people who don't really have your best interests at heart. It's someone who is possibly using you for their own psychological benefit, okay? It might be someone who is using you in some way that is going to, I'm trying to think of the word. It's almost like this person is using you to better their life in some way, whether it's financially, whether it's emotionally, whether it's psychologically, okay? So be very, very aware of that. And you know what? You may get your wish. You might be wishing for something to happen, but then once you get that wish, you're going to find out it really isn't cracked up to be all it is, or it's not cracked up to be all that it was said to be, okay? So what I'm seeing is that possibly there was a relationship in your life, possibly with a paternal figure, or possibly with a parental figure, a friend, a family, a coworker. Maybe you're lonely, and maybe you are looking to form a connection with another person as a partnership. And you were literally manifesting this. You were wanting this relationship to be on solid ground and to feel comfortable with it and secure with it. And now that you've got the opportunity, you're seeing the negative aspects of that person. You're seeing the negative aspects of their personality. You're seeing the indulgence, the overindulgence in possibly drugs or alcohol or any other type of addiction. And so you're feeling that sense of fear. You're feeling that sense of fear, and you're starting to pull back from those energies. Sometimes when you wish for something so hard and you get it, you realize that, you know what? It's not worth the effort. So let's go into that third week, because in that third week, things are getting better. In that third week, you're finding a balance in your life. You're feeling confident. You're feeling a sense of empowerment and success. You're celebrating something. You're being publicly praised. You're meeting challenges head on. You're getting acknowledgement for being the person that you are, the persevering and determined and strong individual that you are. It does talk about you showing a sense of competence. It also talks about possibly you needing to take charge of a situation when other people don't really want to be involved or couldn't really care less. It does talk about a creative partnership. Everything seems to be running smoothly in this third week, okay? Social success, feeling at ease in the spotlight, knowing what other people want, being in situations of high visibility, and that, Capricorn, is going to continue into the future in a good way. That is quite the jump from that second week. So in the middle 2 days of that third week, it does talk about you feeling a semblance of regret. Now, perhaps you found your life dissatisfying and you attempted to do something, and now you're kind of seeing that, damn, maybe I made the wrong choice. So there was a period of time when you had to make a decision in your life in the month of June. I think it was the first couple of days. And now you're regretting having made that decision. Maybe you said, okay, yes, I want to reconnect with you. I'm going to come visit for an extended visit. And you go, and now you're seeing that it's not really what I thought it was going to be. So yeah, so perhaps you're feeling that sense of regret. Or it could be problems that are brought on because of your own actions. So something that you have done has created a conflict in your environment, or a situation in your environment that is not normal for you. It feels a lot of tension. There's a lot of stress there. Perhaps someone that you care about is ill, and perhaps that person has become ill because of circumstances in their environment, and maybe we're part of those circumstances. So it does talk about destabilized conditions that are brought about by outside events or something that has been taking place over a period of time. Now it talks about several things going on in your life, okay? There's a lot of positive things. There's surprises, adventures, variety, creative energy, new opportunities. There is a quest for greater knowledge. But it also talks about an emotional hardship. So it could talk about someone leaving or someone new coming into your circle of energy. There is a new reality in your life now, brought about by changed circumstances. So we're going to move into the last 2 days of that third week, and it's talking about, once again, indecision. You're trying to choose between two things. You're in that transitional period in your life. Your life is in stasis. It's in that holding pattern, okay? You're spending time in your head. You're trying to figure things out. You're trying to understand why your life went in the direction that it went. It talks about you viewing a problem from all sides. You're feeling a lot of frustration and delay. You're waiting for news about someone, possibly someone who's sick, or possibly you're waiting about news about a situation or a circumstance. Maybe you applied for a new job, or you applied for a mortgage, or you applied for a new course of study, okay? Or maybe you have put your name in to move. Maybe you are looking to move across the country, or maybe you're looking to move into a new environment and you're waiting for news back on that. But it does talk about someone who's going to be freed from some type of self-imposed prison. Now, the whole first week, it was talking about you making a decision and wanting to kind of extend that or accept that olive branch that someone was extending to you. And perhaps you accepted it. And in that second week, you seeing that maybe there was some type of addiction or some type of disharmony in that environment that was creating stress and fear. And now, once again, you're having to make a decision. You're having to look at possibly that decision that you made to go for an extended visit. And now it's saying that there is a freedom from that type of restriction. So possibly you have left that situation or that circumstance and you have gone home. You've gone home, or you've gone back to a more secure situation, and you're feeling that sense of freedom now. It does talk about someone in your life who's taking advantage of you monetarily, okay? They're using you for money. So stop making sacrifices for someone, because they are taking advantage of you. Now, it even talks about you possibly having to give up something you value in service of someone else. Maybe selling a property, maybe giving money or help to someone else, helping someone to pay a debt that they were unable to pay. So let's move into that last week. There's a lot of things going on here, a lot of things going on in the month of June for you, and you're in that transition phase. Things are happening. Relationships are changing. There's a changing dynamic in your life, in your relationships, in your partnerships, in your work, in your education. There is a changing dynamic that is moving you into the future in a more positive way. You're pulling away from those negative energies. Now, if it's you that had a problem with some type of addiction, could even be an addiction to food, you're pulling away from that. If it's a relationship that you had with someone else that was, not viable for your well-being, you're pulling away from that relationship. You're letting it go. So the first couple of days of that last week, it talks about you making that attempt and starting a new way of life. If you've applied for a job, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be competing with you for that job, but it looks like you're going to do fairly well. Now, someone in your life is seething with resentment, and it might be the person that you're pulling away from. Perhaps you're attracted to certain groups, but you're still a bit of a loner. You don't really feel like you fit in. So maybe you've moved, or maybe you've taken a new course of study, and you're not really feeling in sync with the people in your class, or the people at your job, or your new job, or the new location where you are. You're wanting to get involved in your life, but you're having a hard time to do it. You're not really sure how to do it. Now, it does talk about you not wanting to deal with other people's ways of doing things, okay? You're going to listen to their point of view. You're going to listen. You're going to nod your head. You're going to let it go in one ear and right out the other, because you know what? You just don't want to get involved in any conflict. So you're going to agree with them just for the sake of agreeing with them. So let's move into the middle part of that last week, because it does talk about corporate downsizing. Talks about restructuring. So perhaps this restructuring is going to require you to move in a new direction, or to start a new job, or do a different type of work, or maybe even get involved in a new program. It also talks about family activities that are taking place. It could even talk about the shrinking of a household when someone moves away. So perhaps you're moving away from a circumstance in your life. Maybe you have just completed your grad courses and now you're leaving home in order to start your new job. Or it could be vice versa. Maybe you've graduated from high school, now you're moving off to be in college or university or higher education. Now, just talk about someone in your life who's trying to pull away from responsibility. And I hope it's not you, Capricorn. But it does talk about a family who is suffering hardship. And it does talk about having to work hard to save money and to set goals in order to be successful as you're moving into the future. It also talks about possibly moving in with a family member. Or maybe a family member moving in with you. It could talk about grandparents coming to visit. It could talk about grandparents moving in, or possibly you moving in with grandparents. But there are many family members involved, so it could be extended family. It could be cousins. It could be aunts. It could be siblings. It could be extended family of all sorts, okay? But it is talking about a close connection, a family connection. So you're going to have to be very diplomatic. You're going to have to be diplomatic about finding solutions to dilemmas that you're going to deal with when there is a larger circle of energy around you. It does talk about you kind of vying for a more simpler life. It almost seems like there was a lot of chaos in your life up until now, Capricorn, and you're vying to have a more simpler life, an easier life. You don't want the chaos in your life anymore. You don't want the conflict in your life anymore. And that is what you are attempting to achieve right now. So the last 2 days of that, the last 2 days of that last week, there is someone in your energy, okay, who's very detached. They have no sympathy for anyone. They're not empathetic. They're not even logical, okay? They're very class-based, very ethnic and class-based. So they kind of look down on you if you're not of the same affiliations that they are, okay? And they're very strict with you. They believe that their beliefs are the only ways, and anyone that doesn't agree with them is inferior or illogical or has a problem. Now, it's someone who doesn't like to interact with perhaps their children. Now, this might be someone that you know. It could be a friend. It could be a family member. It could be extended family. It could be a new family member. And it's someone who doesn't really want to take care of their children. They want to leave the children's care to other people. This could be, I mean, maybe it's even someone who works in childcare, but someone who's not very empathetic and someone who's very strict. And when this happens, sometimes those children will become very openly rebellious, and that might be what's taking place around you. Now, it could even be the overthrow of a government. That could be exactly what's taking place in that last week, where there are going to be problems, financial problems, because of overthrow of a government. There will be a delay in finances that are coming, that possibly are funds that are coming from a governmental agency. But it does talk about injustice. It talks about court. It talks about possibly legalities. Now, legalities come up. There's no tolerance for lies or half-truths, okay? Everything is very factual and very truthful. So authorities are not going to be very sympathetic with this individual, because this individual seems to be forcefully trying to force your hand at something. They're trying to force your hand at something. They're trying to force you to get involved in something that you don't want to get involved in. And so I'm seeing a lot of conflict. I'm seeing a lot of conflict here, a lot of emotional distancing that's taking place in the month of June for you. So, you know, it's a roller coaster ride, and I've been seeing this for almost all the signs that I have done, where there is this emotional roller coaster. There's relationships that are breaking up in your life. There are new relationships that are coming in. There are old relationships where they were shaky, and those people are wanting to reconnect with you and form a more solid foundation, but they're not focused on your well-being. They're focused on their own mentality. So they're a bit narcissistic. They're a bit narcissistic, and they're thinking about themselves. They're possibly trying to force a relationship with you because they think that it's going to better their life in some way. And possibly you agreed to start a relationship with this person, and now you're starting to see that, you know what, that was all for show. It was all for show, and there was no true deep sentiment there. So that's what you're dealing with in the month of June. And I'm so sorry to, give you the bad news, but there is that period of time where you're going to pull away from those energies, and you're going to bring that balance back into your life. So you have to try something in order to know if it's going to work. And indeed, you're finding out in the month of June that this is not something that you want in your life. So you're hoping for a more simpler, more secure, and more peaceful and happy life. And that is what you're vying for. That is what you're going to get as you're moving out of the month of June and into July. So I shall see you on the next video. Be safe, be vigilant, but always be kind. Namaste. Bye-bye.